Alrighty, guys, welcome back to iCoach Nutrition Radio. Today, I've got a very special guest, somebody from the Instagram world, as we all connect these days. I feel as entrepreneurs, but Mr. Alex Maclin, what's going on, my man? How are you?
Hey, what's up?
Not much, man. Quarantine life up here in Dallas, and you're in Austin. So how's the
Yeah,
quarantine life treating you there?
it's fine, man. It's honestly like we were talking before the show, man. My life really hasn't changed a whole lot. I think I was social distancing before it was cool. So, like just work from home life, like I was already doing it. So,
Yeah, no, and you've been working from home I've been working from home for like 3 years now. You've been working from home for longer than that though, right?
yeah, I mean, I've been working from home since probably 2014 when I joined Barbell Shrug full time. So, like I was coaching with them like in 2013, and I left my graduate school, and then I started with them. So I've been remote for a long time.
Nice, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, so definitely not much has changed. Maybe not getting a haircut and then maybe not being able to like go to your favorite restaurants.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't cutting my hair anyways, but yeah, nah, like it's actually not too bad. I'm honestly, I feel bad for a lot of people out there, like like having, dealing obviously with losing their pay and jobs and things like that. But I mean, everybody's dealing with it, but everybody's in a different position, So it's interesting to see how like people are dealing with this situation that we're in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, just like we were talking about before, I mean, both of us have clients that are up like in that Northeast region or like more of those heavily affected regions or even other countries, as I can
Yeah.
imagine. And it's just I almost feel like I'm in a completely different world, like a completely different bubble when I'm having these conversations because it's hard
Hmm.
to relate in Texas because it truly isn't that bad. It really
Right,
not bad
right,
at all
right.
there. So.
Yeah.
But we didn't come here today to talk about Corona and COVID and all this. Dude, I want to, for the listeners here and those that don't know you, I want to kind of dive a little bit into your story. You've been in the field for a really long time now, but I want to kind of dive specifically into kind of your evolution as a nutrition coach. I think
Mm.
now more than ever, like nutrition coaching is extremely popular and a lot of
Yeah.
personal trainers are kind of tacking that on. That's how I started out in the field. Like I was a personal trainer, then a CrossFit coach, and then got my nutrition degree and started doing the nutrition thing full time. So I just want to kind of like start, like, how did you start becoming a nutrition coach and what's that evolution look like to get to where you are now?
Yeah. So like I said earlier, I worked with Barbell Shrug for a long time. When I first joined on, they had online training programs where they would coach weightlifting and stuff like that. So I coached through that program, and they had some nutrition aspects to that program. The program that I started coaching was called the Muscle Gain Challenge. Basically, the whole premise was like gain 26 pounds in 26 weeks, and like you would lift, and then I helped coach weightlifting in there, and I also helped coach like how to get people to like gain weight and like gain muscle mass. And so that was kind of my first exposure. I'm not formally trained in nutrition. Like I don't have a nutrition degree. That's actually something I've been thinking about lately, especially now since like online education might be a thing for the coming future. But like yeah, that's kind of where I first started with nutrition coaching, and then over the years, I started to, learn more about nutrition, take some, certifications. Like you and I, we talked about like precision nutrition level 1 and level 2. You have level 2 too, right?
Yeah, yeah. I did
Yeah.
level one. Jesus, I did level one probably while I was still in school. So probably like 6 years, 8 years ago. And
Yeah.
then level two, I actually like, I've still been working through the level two. I actually never actually
Okay.
completed the level two.
It's a lot, man.
It is a lot. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
lot. And honestly, it's so funny because you posted about the Girls Gone Strong, and one of my other buddies that's in the field, he posted about it too. And I went and looked, and I was like, damn, that's a hell of a deal. I'm gonna go ahead and jump on that. But that's the type of person I am, man. I'm so like I have like 4 different books open right now. Like I'm so like ADD
Yeah.
and scattered all over the
Yeah.
place.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes. So like over the years, just learning more about nutrition, and then even personally for myself, and then I started to later on in my tenure at Shrugged, I started to coach more nutrition and started to get really interested in taking on my own clients. And then I left Shrugged and I bounced around a couple of places, but I ended up like, saying, you know what, I'm just going to do this on my own. I know how to do this. And so I started doing it. And so I've been coaching on my own with my own nutrition coaching for about 2 years now. So it'll be like 2 years this April. So so that's what I've been doing. I've had a chance to work with like quite a few people and help a lot of people. And it's been fun, man.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love your and I mean, I feel like we're very similar in the approach, but I love like you always put like simple AF meal nutrition or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it's just like I feel like nutrition is one of those things that's like, of course, like we can go into the biochemistry and like make it as complicated as you want, but like it's not supposed to be like that. I mean, we the whole idea here is to try to simplify it and meet our clients where they are in this journey and help to essentially help them to live this healthy lifestyle that everybody's striving for. But they're putting these, like, in my opinion, like these diets that get you into this headspace, into this mindset of like, start and stop and like good and bad and succeed and fail, rather than like this lifelong journey of like living a healthy lifestyle.
Yeah, I think a lot of that comes from people just want to stand out, like trainers, coaches, they want to stand out. And first of all, ain't nothing new under the sun in health and fitness. Like there's nothing new. You can call it a different name, but it's the same. Sorry, somebody buzzing in. It's the same thing that it was like 10 years ago, right? And it's all cyclical. So people try to like make things more complicated, or things like make it seem like they've come out with something new, but it's really just the same. But like, I'm more about the basic stuff, the simple stuff. It's not sexy, and I'll probably never be famous for it because it's nothing new. But I think like the beauty about like coaching is how to help somebody execute and apply those simple things, because people have trouble even doing the simple things.
Yeah. Well, and I think you bring up a great point, which is like, I feel like a lot of coaches and trainers, like, I mean, I forgot how long you've been in the field total, but like I've been in the field now for like about 10 years. And me in the beginning, for sure, it was like this idea of like, I just need more certifications, more degrees, and more knowledge. And like, I need to get smarter and smarter and smarter. And what I finally figured out at some point was like, no, you don't need to keep getting smarter. I mean, maybe you do, but you need to figure out how to communicate better to your clients. You need to figure out how to, like Jordan Syatt, for example, and I'm not going to rant on him because we talked about it for like 10 minutes in the last podcast I did. But he is like one of the best in the world at doing this, which is taking the stuff and, taking research-based stuff and simplifying it for the masses.
Yeah. No, 100%, man. Like communication, like you know enough, like if you've been in the game like 10 years, like it's just how to help somebody who doesn't understand it at all understand it so that they can actually do something with it. That's it, man. That's it.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, I guess we're living in this world where it's like information overload, right? It's like totally. It's like this you can literally Google or YouTube or try to learn anything about anything. But I feel like when you start to connect, like I feel like a lot of people, they've heard this simple stuff, right? I refer to it as like the big rocks in your life, like sleep, nutrition, exercise, hydration, stress management. So a lot of people, like you said, it's not sexy. It's super simple. And we've heard these things a million times, but yet like we're not doing it consistently, and so how do we connect the knowing to the doing? You do that with like accountability, right? And that's where like working with a coach one-on-one is. And I feel like me as a coach, every single time I've tried to do something that was like, and there's plenty of people that have succeeded, outside of me, but every time I try to do something that's like anything other than one-on-one coaching, like group coaching or like even like ebooks or like any of that stuff, like it's just, I feel like I'm not as good of a coach. Like I feel like working one-on-one, like doing this right here on video coaching calls and like text messaging and all that stuff, like, I don't know. I feel like that is just such a game changer in the way that, the impact that you make in that person's life as a coach versus, in a group setting or different things like that. And it obviously depends, right? I mean, I guess CrossFit and community, I mean, that was all built up from, the group setting, but I don't know. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree, man. At least for me, there are definitely people out there who absolutely slay the ebook group training program games. Like prime example, one of my best friends, Lori, like she slays that game, right?
Yeah.
I am like, I'm in the same kind of boat with you, man. Like I really enjoy, and it just really depends on what you enjoy, right? Like what you get energy out of. Because honestly, like we as coaches, we give a lot of our energy away. And so like we have to get something back too. It's not just about like money, because I mean, yeah, that helps, but like we have to get some energy from it. So we have to get some value from it. So like I get value from directly being able to impact people and work with people, one-on-one. That energizes me. Writing a book, I'm working on something, but it's like, again, it's like hard for me to do that because it's like I like want to work one-on-one with people, and that's what gives me energy. So when I do other things, like it takes energy, and now it's more like it almost feels more like work.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the whole reason why I got into fitness, like as a career, was that it wasn't feeling like work. Like it was actually, it was fun. It was fun to do, podcasts and coach people and stuff like that. It's fun to do this. That's why I do it.
Yeah. Yeah. No, absolutely, man. I completely agree. I mean, I think that's the same thing for me. I mean, when I think back on it, when I did an ebook, like that was like the worst 3 months of my life. I was like pulling teeth to make myself do that. But yeah, like coaching people one-on-one, like that like, that's like what puts me on fire, right? Like it's like the fuel to your fire. So I was just interested in kind of where your take on that was, because I feel like there's so many online coaches, and there's so many different like styles of coaching that are out there. And I think a lot of clients kind of have to figure out, okay, well, like the email coaching maybe didn't work for me. And like, maybe I need something that's more like this, like video face-to-face. But yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic for clients to kind of figure out. What is your, what are kind of like the main type of clients you work with? Do you have like a niche, like all these people say these days, or do you work with a whole type of clients?
Honestly, I guess my clients, it's interesting. I started off, when I first started coaching, I wanted to really only work with high level athletes. I wanted to work with like weightlifters and powerlifters and strongmen and all that kind of stuff. And of course, like I took on, people that weren't competitive athletes and things like that. But I quickly found that like again, back to the energy analogy, like I got more energy working with, just your normal, like everyday person, like, dad, mom, like trying to just eat healthier, get healthier, like just wanted to be able to just be happy and figure this stuff out to the point where they can just live their life the way that they want to live it, and not have to like sit there and like think a million things in their head, like what should I be eating or what should I be doing? Like that's really that type of person is really the person that I really enjoy serving, and I get a lot of energy out from serving, because I feel like, yeah, okay, you could take this like awesome athlete and then they can, improve their nutrition and go win, world titles and world championships and all that stuff, and it makes you look like a badass. But I mean, at the same time, I felt that like I was helping somebody more who was in this boat here, that like it just completely turned their life around, So that's, again, like that's the type of person I like to work with. And so that's mostly, I would say, mostly the type of people that I have. And I really try to like tailor my messaging and the way I talk online and on Instagram. I think that's important for us coaches. Like whoever we want to get, like we need to make sure that our messaging and what we say is aligned with those people. So I put out stuff there to attract those types of people. Like I'm not posting about like, nutrient timing and work performance-based nutrition. I'm not posting about that, like, because that's just not the client that I want,
Yeah. No, that totally makes sense. And I think like, I mean, I'm sure you've had this happen before, but when you have that moment with these just normal everyday people, a moment like where you've been working with them and they literally tell you, they're like, man, Alex, like you've changed my life. You've transformed my life. Like, I mean, that's something before I ever got in the field as a personal trainer or any of that, like I never would in a million years would have like looked at that job as me like changing somebody's life. And here I am like 10 years later and realize like, oh, wow, like that's what this
Yeah.
is, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, if you think about it though, too, like the people that you probably work with, probably similar, is like, they have wife, they have husband, they have kids, they have relatives. Like, so many times in my coaching career, like what I've helped somebody else like directly, it's spilled over to like the rest of their family or their coworkers and things like that. So it's like one of those things that people always talk about is impact, and yeah, okay, like building this big brand and helping millions and millions of people with all the stuff, like, yeah, that impacts a lot of people, but we don't sometimes think like working one-on-one impacts a lot of people, but it can, because it can spread and spill over to other people that they're in direct network with. So
Yeah, I mean, I could not agree more. It's literally what happened to me.
yeah.
I had this vision of like, I want to build this big old company with all these coaches. And like in the first year, like was starting to build up a small team and then realized I was like, man, like same thing goes back to the energy piece, right? I mean, like for me, it all boiled down to us like having our first child, and me, my first year of starting the business, working like 7 days a week, 15 hours a day, trying to build it, and then
Yeah.
essentially realizing like, man, the whole reason why I made this jump in the first place to start this business is so that I could be around my family like more than I ever experienced growing up. And I was like, man, I could sit here and build the biggest company in the world, but if I don't have like my wife and my daughter, or my wife and my son right by me there at the top, then it's like it won't even matter. And I was like, all right. And so I transitioned the whole entire business back to this model here of working with clients one-on-one, and like
Mm-hmm.
I'm happier than ever before, just like I was in the beginning when that was the original idea.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I
So
think it's really important. Like, again, just coaches, if they're listening to this, like, you gotta know what you really want. Like, not everybody wants to, not everybody wants the same thing as everybody. So you really got to figure out like what you want. And then uh, a friend of mine told me, I may butcher this, but he was like, don't build your life around the business. The business has to fit your life. Like and that was like very, very like I needed to hear that like years ago. Like that's what I need to hear. And I still remember that. I still try to keep that in mind. So like, making sure that like I'm living the life that I want to live, and then my business is a part of it.
yeah, such a good point. I mean, I think most people do it backwards, right? And that's just how we're conditioned with society. I mean, that's like going to school and doing, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
essentially like if you had the goal of like, I want to be a lawyer, it's like you go after being that, and then the lifestyle that comes with it, like maybe you like it, maybe you don't. I mean, one of
Right.
my friends, she was a lawyer, and that's a perfect example. She was a lawyer and literally like hated it and ended up making the jump, and now she's this like life coach. She's like this online coach. So
Mm-hmm.
and loves it, happier than ever before.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's the same thing like nutrition, man. You got to make nutrition work for you, not you work like the other way around. It's very similar. Yeah.
I love that. Well, so I want to talk about like, and I'm sure there's a lot of similar struggles here, but what are some of the, like just the most common struggles that you're seeing with the clients that you're working with one-on-one? I mean, the majority of clients I work with same situation. I think we work with a lot of the same type of clients, but if you had to identify, like, I don't know, if you took the last 100 clients that have came to you, what are maybe like the top like 3 to 5 biggest struggles that you're seeing there?
I think that honestly, I was talking about this with with a potential client yesterday. I think the biggest thing that holds everybody back is this concept that it's either all or nothing. Like, that is pervasive. Every single person I've ever met, client come around with, that's where they start off at. They start off at this thing where it's like, I'm either doing everything right or I'm not, or like I can't, there's no in between. And they think like, they believe that consistency and commitment is literally doing 100% of the time. And they don't have any concept of like, well, this is okay if I do just good enough, right? Like, 80% is a lot better than 0%. And a lot of people, when they first come to me, that is where they're at. They literally are from 100 to 0. And so like, and I would even say that is like the hardest thing to even change in a person, because we're so conditioned to wanting to be like perfect and everything's got to be right or it's not going to work. And it's incredibly frustrating. And it's even more frustrating for people who are struggling. Like, you know, like not everybody has an easy time with their goals. Like a lot of people really struggle with losing body fat and whatnot, or getting healthy. And so they think that they have to be perfect, and they try so hard to be perfect, and it's unsustainable, and it backfires, and they go swing the complete opposite way because there's no in between at that point. They are always so much trying to be on that they never learn what is in the middle.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it almost goes back to that point we were talking about earlier, which is like, it's like the dieter's mindset has been accustomed to that, right? Like that's what they've learned from the very beginning, which is all of these diets out here. It's either like you do it to the T or you're not doing it. And I mean, it's very, very, the example I like to give is like, instead of thinking about your nutrition, and I saw this from somebody, it's not originally from me, but instead of thinking about nutrition as like a light switch, like turning it on and turning it off, it's more of like a temperature gauge, right? Yeah. Where it's like, it increases a bit and it comes down, right? So, I mean, but I think that's such a hard like metric for people to track. It's like, okay, well, define 80% for me, you know?
Right.
So how do you track that with people? Like, I mean, obviously there's MyFitnessPal, Chronometer or whatever, like tracking macros, but like maybe for the client that like doesn't want to, do you work with any clients that like, they don't track their food, they don't track their macros? Okay, cool. So like, how do you go about maybe like tracking data, like tracking consistency with those clients there?
I mean, you know, there's always ways to measure things, like, and it just depends on what you want to look at, right? Like it could be, you know, if we're trying to see how somebody's food is, okay, just take some pictures of your food and just, you know, send them to me, text them to me or whatever. You can also look at, you know, hey, like, let's focus on, you know, adding some vegetables to your meals and adding, you know, at least one serving. And how often did you do that? So there's always going to be some way to measure something. But the thing is that I try to like go back to that, like all or nothing, is that like any progress is going to be progress. Like if somebody was, you know, sleeping 4 hours a night and they start sleeping 5, that's progress, right? And I think a lot of people think that they've got to fix all their problems or get to the ideal or optimal. Honestly, I hate like the words optimal or ideal, because again, it's so like trying to be perfect, right? Like it's just like, let's just get to the point where, okay, we can do some things, we can make some improvements, and let's be okay with that. If we want to get a little bit better, then we can get a little bit better once we get to that point, you know? So I think that's the thing, like just being able to just track little small, even the smallest progress is important for people to see, like, oh, okay, like I don't have to be perfect. And then you can see the results of that. Like I've had people who, you know, they do something like, well, that's not going to work, I'm not going to see any benefit in that. And you see benefit. It's like, yeah, you don't have to make ginormous changes to actually see any benefit.
Yeah, I mean, I think like one thing that's really helped me is essentially like breaking it down from like a numerical standpoint, right? So it's like you hear this like 80-20 lifestyle all the time. So like, awesome. Let's say you eat 21 meals in a week, right? Breakfast, lunch, dinner, 7 days.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Well, if you broke that down, like 20% is like 4 meals, right? And then essentially those other meals are the 80%, right? And so, I mean, if I sat here and said, hey, like, you can go out to eat, have the flexibility to go out to eat, to enjoy the social events or whatever it may be 4 times a week, and then cook your own meals for 17 of them, you know, like, I feel like that's a pretty good, like, sustainable balance there. But like tracking that data and breaking it down from a, like, almost like grading it essentially as like, here's an A or B or whatever, as like, in terms of, like, your percentage, because like we'll use, like, with clients, almost all the clients I work with, like I'll use this like habit tracker that we created. And with that, like if I have them track 365 days of, let's say, like 10 to 15 different habits, right? It's not about what happened in a week, a good or bad week. It's like it's painting the picture of what a 365-day year looks like. And you can see, all right, out of this many days in the year, all right, cool, that's about 80%, you know? So I think just like trying to paint that picture, just like we were talking about earlier, trying to paint the picture in different ways for clients to get them to to see the wins and to stop being so damn hyper focused about the damn scale in front of them.
Right. Yeah, I like that. What did you make that habit tracker, or is that
Yeah, it's literally just Google Sheets. Like I literally just created it, and it has things, you know, like everything from like nutrition and fitness like goals to like personal and professional development goals. So like I like tailor it to each client, but like in general, I'll just do like time blocking, morning routine, night routine, grocery shopping. Did you eat an adequate amount of protein today? Like tracking their calories, tracking their workouts, tracking their, you know, did they do like a stress management habit that day, things like that. But it's just like being able to, you know, click the box there or click the little scroll down and pick the choice, and then have like 365 days laid out, or however long the process of working together is. And it's a tool that they can go back to. You know, I'm like, look, like I need accountability too. I'm a human being just like you, right? And so like if I don't want to use something like MyFitnessPal or Chronometer, which a lot of the times I don't, like I don't really enjoy tracking, then I can use something like the habit tracker, which is so much easier and still gives me the awareness I need to make the changes I need to make if I need to.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's a great idea. I actually now you're making me think like, yeah, man, I need to build something like that. Because I don't have anything like I don't have a like a habit tracker. I have people evaluate, you know, themselves. I think that's a very powerful thing. Like, how do you think you did? Right? Like, do you think that you did as well as, you know, let's just say if you evaluate yourself on the A through F scale, like what would you give yourself, right? And then that's an opportunity for us, for my client and I, to like have a conversation about like, okay, well maybe they said that they were C. Okay, well why do you think you were a C effort? Oh, this doesn't happen. Okay, well how can we get you from C to B, right? I like them, like almost. I find that when people look to themselves and really evaluate themselves, like, and especially with me holding them accountable, then it's more like I'm not telling them what to do. I'm not forcing them. They're more the driver of their own change, which I feel like is a very important thing. Like you're more likely to follow your own plan than probably, you know, just listen to somebody else like tell you what to do, you know. At least that's how I feel like, you know, coaches, at least in this space, like, yeah, let's because ultimately I also don't want people to like need me. I try to work myself out of the job. Like I try to have my clients like say like, hey, I don't need you anymore. So that's what I want to try to develop in my clients, is some self-sufficiency.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think that, I mean, you hit on some really great points there, but I think at the end of the day, yeah, it's like, if you look at what they're used to and all the diets before, diets tell you what to do.
Right.
They didn't teach you how to live a healthy lifestyle. They didn't, you know what I mean? And like, ultimately, like that's what this process is about. Like we always talk about like, you know, training periodization, nutritional periodization and all of this, but like most people have no idea what that is. And just being able to go through the process of like, look, let's teach you how to learn how to grocery shop and cook and meal prep and lose weight if you want to lose weight, or maintain weight if you want to maintain, or gain muscle if you want to, you know what I mean? Like basically just go through all of these different scenarios so that they go through it one-on-one with a coach. And I guarantee you're going to want to do these things later in life multiple times. So if you know how to do it, you know, it's so much easier that time around. Now, I think some people, they're like, all right, I know how to do it, but I know I need accountability. So you're not going to really necessarily teach me all this much, but like I need the accountability, and that's fair. I mean, I feel like that's how I am a lot of the times. It's like, I mean, I go into it open. I want to learn for sure, but like more so, like if I'm going to work with a nutrition coach or fitness coach, it's just because I'm being like lazy and I'm not holding myself accountable. You know?
Well, I think everybody, if you want to do something like, and you want to do it to a high level, you want results in the fastest amount of time, like getting a coach helps, right? Like that's just always how I feel like it's always how it's been with me or anybody else. Like if you want to get somewhere faster than you could do on your own, probably could do on your own, you get somebody to help you for sure.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, 100%. It's either the education you're lacking, or it's the accountability, or it's both. But I mean, either way, yeah. I mean, it's very rare that, well, I mean, I guess it just depends. I'll ask your opinion on this actually. What if, because I'm sure you've heard this before. What if you've gone out on a limb, you've worked with coaches, you've invested, and maybe you've had one or more experiences where it just wasn't what like the coaching like we talked about today is like, and it was a bad experience. Like, what would you say to somebody like that who basically just kind of lost trust, lost belief in the power of one-on-one coaching?
That's tough, man. Cause yeah, I mean, that happens a lot, you know. I definitely come across people that they're like, yeah, I didn't have really great experience with this coach and things like that. And it truly makes our job it makes our job really hard because we do have to show like, well, how are you going to be any different? But I think that like a big thing is at least with me, I really try to take a lot of time with people at the front end to really learn what they're about and like their goals and why they're important to them. And really, and also to see like if I am even can help them, like, am I a good fit for them? You know, like I think there's a lot of coaches, and I get it. Like we all have to make money, and clients is how we make money. So, you know, there was definitely periods of time where I've taken on clients that I probably shouldn't have. And early on and over with experience, I'm like, well, I don't think I can actually help you. And I think we as coaches have to do our diligence to like not take on people that we really, really can't help, you know? I also think another thing that's really important is that sometimes maybe these bad experiences are because that there's not a very clear understanding of expectations from both parties, right? Like, what is the client expecting? What are you expecting? If those expectations do not line up, then that's going to be a problem. And that may have not been discussed at the front end. And so what I do with clients that I'm going to work with, I'm like, okay, what do you expect to happen? Here's what I expect to happen. Do these match up, right? And so we save a lot of like heartbreak and bad experiences and all that kind of stuff by just, I think, really just getting to know each other and then really setting clear expectations of what's going to happen, how this process is going to look like, what I'm going to provide, what I need from you, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. I think those are great points. I think at the end of the day, I think now in 2020, it's people are getting a lot smarter. People are doing like more research. People are, I mean, it's like that know, like, and trust factor in a way can be established through social media. So, and then obviously like a lot of people do these free coaching calls or discovery calls or whatever. And I mean, yeah, a lot of the times for me, that's like 45 minutes, an hour, maybe even longer. And because it's like, I have to learn, I mean, really that first month or more, like my number one goal is just to learn as much about you as I possibly can and get you like that first win at least, you know what I mean? So yeah, man, I think those are some great points. So like, what are your, like, if I use this example of like, what are the big rocks that you try to focus on in your life when it comes to living a healthy lifestyle? Like for me, I said sleep, nutrition, fitness, hydration, and stress management. So those 5. What are kind of like those big rocks for you in your life, and maybe even some of those things that you help clients to kind of incorporate into theirs?
Definitely nutrition. You know, that's definitely a big rock of mine. You know, if I don't eat well, I don't feel well, you know, like I'm very much so like, I'm really in tune with how I feel. So like, I've got to make sure that I'm getting the food that I like, that I need, and that serves me. Right. So that's a big one. Movement. I'm a much happier person when I'm moving 100%. Like, you know, whether that's just getting outside, going for a walk, or, you know, doing jiu-jitsu or lifting, like I have to move. And that's a really, really big, important part of my life. The other I would say is like space. I need space. Like I need time away to do my thing and just be, you know, do the things that I like to do. So, you know, I definitely set boundaries and if I need space, and like I make more space for myself. I think that's something that like a lot of people don't do. They try to put too much on their plates and then, you know, they get overwhelmed. So like space is, I'm an introvert, man. So like sometimes I'm just like, nope, just gonna sit in my house. You know, like we coming up with 5, like I mean, I guess like, you know, basic stuff like, you know, obviously sleep, making sure I'm getting enough sleep. And then, I would say, other than that, like, basic stuff like hydration. But I think the main three things that if I can give myself, good food, movement, and space, I'm good. Like that's really all I need. I'm pretty low maintenance, man.
Yeah. No, I think that's awesome. I think like I always ask that question to people just because it's like, I think you have to build that self-awareness. I think that's probably like the number one missing link for every single person in life is just the fact that we all lack self-awareness, and to whatever degree it is. Some people obviously are more self-aware than others, but as you build more self-awareness in nutrition, as you build it in the gym, as you build it in personal and professional development, becoming a better husband, father, whatever. But it's like you learn as you go. You got to put those reps in. You become more and more aware, and you got to just like fail forward. You got to keep learning from all those mistakes. But I think it's going back to the diet culture here that we live in, and starting and stopping, and just like essentially putting these people into this like headspace that they don't even believe that they can succeed in the first place. And I always reference it as like we have this like integrity bank account with ourselves. And it's like every single time that you say you're going to do something, you follow through with it. It's like, ding, ding, put a dollar in the integrity bank account. And every single time you say you're going to do something, you don't follow through with it. It's basically like taking a dollar away from the integrity bank account. And so the question becomes like, all right, well, how are you operating your life? What is the operating balance? Are you in a positive balance or a negative balance? And the integrity with yourself. Nobody knows that but us, right? Like nobody knows that but us, but it's like, that's the thing that can either like, I feel like propel you, or it can just like eat away at you and rob you of your happiness,
Yeah. I like that analogy. Like, the bank account, like you deposit, take away, right? Like, yeah, that's a very great analogy.
And I always tell people, I'm like, and you can't let that like stress you out either. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's gotta be something that's motivating, not like stressing you out even more. Some people, they think too deep on it and they're like, oh my God, I'm negative operating balance. They just go into that negative headspace. I'm like, all right, well, that's not serving you.
Yeah, man, this stuff is really the last things that should be stressful. This is all like health and fitness is all supposed to be helping us feel better. In the end of the day, man, that's it. Like if we're not feeling good and we're stressed out about it, we're missing the point. Like straight up,
that right there that's literally the best line from the whole podcast. Like that's it. And that's such a simplistic concept that I think so many people forget is like everything that we're doing here. And here's why, right? Because it's when you first start, of course it's hard. Of course you're making like new changes. It takes more effort. You have to invest more of your time and things like that. Right. But it's like this idea of like, you're going to get better. If you think back to anything in your life that you've done that was hard, that you accomplished, I'm like, when you went to school or you got that first job or whatever, it was like, you were scared as hell when you first started it. And you thought to yourself, it was going to take forever and like, it wasn't possible. But then here you are, you achieved it,
Yeah.
And I feel like if you've ever accomplished anything, worth accomplishing in life, like you can accomplish a journey like this. It's going to be hard. It's going to take time. It's going to, all these things,
Yeah. I think a lot of people put a lot of pressure, and I wrote a post about this, and it's like, putting a lot of expectations and pressure and things like that. It's just like, that you're thinking about it in the wrong sense. Is like, the actions actually start to become the reward, like the outcomes, like, okay, you lose 20 pounds. Most people are like, okay, I want to lose 5 more pounds. Like that doesn't mean anything. It's what you did to get there, who you become in the process. Like that's what's rewarding. And doing these things that keep you moving that direction, that's what's rewarding. Like living in alignment with your values and what you prioritize, that's the reward. Right. Like, and that's why I think, like, again, like if you're stressing out about it, like, again, like that, you're missing the point, because again, this whole thing is about making us feel better and feel good as people. And so if we're just stressing out about, well, I got to do this because of this, like that's not how it's supposed to work,
Yeah, I think that's a great point. I mean, and it goes into the conversation of just having time, having space, making space for yourself, being able to reflect, right?
Mhm.
Being able to think about the journey. And because it's so easy to get, I mean,
Yeah.
you could do this with like, somebody's nutrition journey or entrepreneurs or whatever, but it's so easy to get caught up in like in it and like always wanting more and more and more and more and more and never
Yeah.
actually being grateful for what you have. I think what just
100%.
happened here though, it slowed down, right? Like I think it slowed down a lot of people's lives. I think that at least for me personally, like, and I've heard this from a lot of clients, like I've 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 been able to have more time to reflect and think and appreciate the little things in life. Appreciate
Yeah.
the fact that my neighborhood here is like more active than ever. I'm seeing more like family
Yeah.
bike rides and walks than ever before. And like, I mean, that stuff that stuff puts a smile on my face, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, you're totally right. It's funny. Before I got on this, I saw a post. I'm in the Precision Nutrition Facebook group. Um, I don't know how to say his last name, but he's like the like founder of Stronger You.
Mike.
Yeah, Mike. Yeah,
Yeah.
did you see that post?
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like a long list of things, but at the bottom it's like not appreciating like what you've done, all you've done in this time leading up. Like big what was the premise of the post, like things that nutrition like clients like constantly working on with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like the most common mistakes, basically.
Yeah. So like that bottom number one, like bottom one was like not appreciating all the things that you've done up until now, So yeah, no, I think you're totally right. People have a lot more space to like really kind of look at that and kind of reflect. And I think too, like we as coaches, like definitely with our clients, like we all need to be constantly reminded of this, because we're always going to be hungry for more, but we need to be reminded, like, look how far you've come. Like that's what we're going to celebrate the most, is looking at how we were from this person and now we're this person.
Yeah. It's the journey, man, right? It's the journey. 100%. It's like, it's convincing yourself. It's hard. It's so much easier said than done, but it's convincing yourself to like fall in love with the process, fall in love with the journey, and like embrace the good and the bad and the ugly and everything that's going to come along.
Absolutely. Didn't you start doing jiu-jitsu recently or before the?
I posted about it because I've started to become more and more curious, because that's something I've never done before, and I haven't pulled the trigger and started, probably mainly because of like this whole Corona thing. I mean, now I can't really like go and do it, but I do want to do it eventually for sure. I just want to get better at fighting. Like I want to like I think when you have like a family, it's like it's this thing. It's like, I mean, if somebody tried to break in my house or what, you know what I mean? Like it's just like I want to be able to like. I mean, I'm sure I could fight now, but I want to learn. I want to get better. You know?
So, no. So you think you know how to fight, but
right.
But if you fight somebody who actually knows how to fight, you don't know how to fight. But no, what I was saying was like, if you do jujitsu, it's like jujitsu. I mean, people spend decades, like 10, 15 years, like working towards, the black belts. And it's this really, really long journey. And all the people that I talk to who are black belts and things like that, it's the same thing, man. Like you have to appreciate the journey. One thing that kept stuck with me was like, I was talking to a higher belt, and he was like, whenever I stopped worrying about like winning in training or like belts, getting promoted or whatever, like the outcomes, and I just had fun and just did it and just showed up, and even if I got my ass kicked and like I learned from it, like that's when, one, I started having a lot more fun. Two, I learned a lot more jiu-jitsu, and that's when I started like to get better, and the progression just happened anyways. I didn't have to like focus on it.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think it's so true. I mean, I was reminded for that like more than ever when I finally like stopped competing in sports. I basically competed in sports from the time I was like 3 until I was like 25 or something, right? So it was like my like body was like a byproduct of sports. Like it was, I never had to focus on eating healthy or like tracking my food or any of that type of stuff. Like I trained all the time. I worked out all the time. I competed all the time. And like my body composition was like a byproduct of that. then I stopped competing. I stopped working out as much, like way less, right? I mean, competing in CrossFit, I was doing like 3-4 hours a day. Now I work out like 3-4 hours a week. You know, so it's like I saw like what happened, and like I was doing everything in person now, and then I made the jump. Everything was remote, so I went from like 25,000 steps a day to like 5, right? And so, and I was eating like 6,000 calories competing in CrossFit, and now I eat like 3. And so it was like all these crazy changes happened there. But I mean, I don't know. I think that's like the saying is like roll with the punches, bob and weave. Like these are the seasons of life. You're gonna go through so many of them, and they're always gonna hit you when they first happen. But you're gonna adapt like anything else. And I mean, I think that's just like the nature of being like a human being. Congratulations.
Yeah.
So I love it, man. Well, Alex, it's been a pleasure, man. I want to respect your time, but where can everybody find you at on Instagram? You put up a lot of great content and put in a lot of time to your posts. So yeah, y'all definitely go follow him. It's just Alex Q Maclin on Instagram, right?
Yeah. Alex Q Maclin, Maclin. Yeah. And then my website is alexmaclin.com. Yeah.
Cool. I love that, man. Well, dude, any final words, final thoughts for the listeners here? Any final inspiration or anything you want to leave the audience with?
And, you know, just like we talked, but there was a lot of good nuggets and pearls up in this thing. So, you know, like I think the main thing is just, you know, enjoying the journey. I always talk about, I'm sure people get tired of me talking about it, but it's so true. And I feel like we just need to be reminded of that all the time because it's so hard to forget. It's so easy to forget, you know? So,
yeah. And I think, like we said, I mean, just as a reminder, in order to enjoy the journey, sometimes like maybe tracking more of these data points and tracking more of this progress so that you can have the awareness around the progression of your journey is key. Because if you're not tracking anything at all and all you're doing is acting like you remember it in your head, I mean, that is like, it's insane. You're going to tell yourself so many BS stories that are not true that are going to ultimately probably make you self-sabotage, right?
Yeah.
I agree, man. I think there's a lot of nuggets in here for sure. I'll leave you with this. What is your favorite food? And then what is the one food that you would never in a million years eat?
Definitely favorite food is definitely pizza, hands down. So, you know,
any kind of pizza, any kind you gotta.
I mean, pretty much any kind, man. Like I've never had like anchovies or anything like that on pizza, but I'll mess with pineapple on pizza. So everybody who's hating on that, whatever, y'all can go somewhere. But pizza, I will throw down on some pizza. Man, there's a lot of foods I probably will not eat. I don't know if you ever eat this. This is like a Southern thing. I mean, you're from the South, but I will not mess with like chitlins, man. You ever had chitlins?
Chitlins? No, I don't even know.
You ever had chitlins? Okay, so chitlins are basically like pig intestines. Okay. And they've been like stewed and they like smell to high heaven if you cook them. It's like a really country food. Like I'm from Memphis, man. Like, so we like, I will not eat that. That is something I will absolutely not eat. I won't do it.
yeah. I don't think I'd be eating that either. My dad is from Louisiana, and so he's always talking about this, you know, like snakes and alligator and all that. I'm like, dude, I'm good on that. Like, I'm good.
I've had gator, man. Gator sausage is pretty dope, but like, I won't do the chitlins, man. And the way I'm pronouncing it is like the Southern way. I think they're spelled like chitterlings. Like it doesn't sound good. It doesn't look good. It's not good, man. Just don't even with that.
That's so funny. Yeah, I don't think I've ever heard of that, but
go look it up. Go on Google, man.
Yeah, you're gonna run my appetite if I look at
mine will be blown, man. Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, dude, Alex, I appreciate the time, man. This will probably go out in I think like 2 weeks or so. So I'll shoot you over the stuff once it does. But if there's anything I can do to help you out or pay back the time, just let me know. And let's stay in touch, man. It's been good talking.
All right. Appreciate it, Justin. Yeah.
Cool, man. All right, brother. Have a good day.
All right, man. Take care.